So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired four-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally, one that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this: we know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want?
I would ask how we've gotten here, but the fact is that we've gotten here because the Republican Party, a party that once beat its chest as the defenders of the Constitution, of freedom, of law and order, of democracy, has now decided that the lone principle they care about is allegiance to one man, Donald Trump. And so now, when you've got someone like Trump who, to be perfectly clear, would govern like a fascist, you've got the rest of the GOP perfectly content to sell their souls because, again, they defer to him no matter what. And I know people are going to hear me say that Donald Trump would govern like a fascist and clutch their pearls, kind of like how Piers Morgan did here.
It is the Democrats who for 8 years have screamed that he's Adolf Hitler. That's fairly violent rhetoric. You're comparing him directly to an absolute genocidal maniac
if Donald
who murdered
Trump,
12 million people, including 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So when you do that, that is violent rhetoric.
Piers, if Donald Trump acts like a fascist, it is not the Democrats' fault for calling him a fascist.
You're saying he is?
That is his
Hitler? He is Hitler?
No, absolutely not. But I'm saying he does act like a fascist. He does want to consolidate power in the executive branch. He does want to send the military into American cities. He does want to
you have no
terminate
problem
the
comparing him to Adolf Hitler?
I am calling him a fascist. That's what I'm doing.
First of all, acknowledging that Donald Trump would govern like a fascist is not calling him Hitler. It was Trump himself who said that he would terminate the Constitution, that he would want to be a dictator, that he would send the military into American cities, that he wanted to seize voting machines, that those who oppose him are enemies of the people. That is fascist behavior. That is what fascism is. Maybe certain people should spend a little less time having fainting spells over hearing the word fascism and a little more time expressing concern over the reason that people are calling calling Donald Trump a fascist. But here's the second and more important point. Trump literally said that Hitler did good things and that he wanted generals like the Nazis. So even though I've always been careful to couch my own language by noting that just because I'm calling Trump a fascist doesn't mean I think he's Hitler, the fact is that Trump himself can't stop likening himself to the guy. I mean, hell, I've given him more benefit of the doubt than even he deserves. How many more examples of fascist behavior and rhetoric do we have to hear before the thing that upsets us isn't the accusation from those on the left, but rather the behavior from the actual politician on the right? And yet still that won't move these Republican officials because, again, their allegiance isn't to democracy or the Constitution or the American people, it is to Trump. When I say that he can say anything and keep their support, at this point, that should be abundantly clear that there is quite literally nothing he could say that would move these people away from him. Like this self-avowed independent thinker, New Hampshire Governor Sununu says.
John Kelly says that Trump, quote, certainly prefers the dictator approach to government. In supporting the ticket, that is something that you're supporting. Yeah. Is that something you are okay with?
No, look, I don't think anybody should be okay with statements like that, of course. And if there's ever anyone you don't want any sort of comparison to, it's Hitler and all of that sort of thing. As we've discussed before, I think it's not just what Sununu is going to be voting for. I think most of America is going to go this way. I do think Trump wins this thing in the end, and it's about that change. People are willing to say, look, I don't like his style, I don't like his approach, I don't like the things he says, but if we can get a Republican mindset out of Washington that says you come first as an individual, not big governments. States' rights matter. Regulatory reforms. We're going to cut regulation out. We're going to make things a little easier in terms of costs. We're going to handle the inflation. I know the media likes to talk about the salacious stuff, but I'm just trying to say whether it's Sununu or 50% plus one voter that are likely going to win this thing for Trump, that's what America cares. I don't know any American that would like any of those comments, right? No, there's nobody in America that would likes to hear that conversation about a potential future president of the United States. But that's how bad things are. That's how bad the Harris campaign has run things. That's how bad her message is, and that's how bad the last 3.5 years has been for a lot of Americans. They're willing to say, look, we'll hold our nose, we'll vote for Trump. We need that culture change in an administration that puts people in this country first.
Ah, yes, a quote, Republican mindset, which apparently these days means praising Nazis. Here's Sununu saying, in the same breath, that he doesn't think anyone should be okay with statements like Trump's before immediately explaining why he'll support him anyway. Sununu says it's merely Trump's style to say things like this. We are talking about someone who will govern this country as a fascist. That's not just him tweeting stupid shit, that is him fundamentally changing the US government to more closely align it with the most reviled figure in history. I mean, I'm sorry, but what in the actual fuck are we doing here? Here's the deal, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We are never going to convince these Republicans in power today to suddenly change their tune. This is who they are. They are fundamentally corrupt. They oppose democracy. This is a GOP that is rotten to its core. The only way to change it is to deliver such a repudiation to them at the ballot box that the only lesson they could take out of it is that they will never hold power in this country again by elevating people that they've elevated thus far. There is no reasoning with these people. There is only defeating them. And finally, I'll finish off with a video that was posted by French President Emmanuel Macron celebrating the anniversary of American forces landing on Normandy Beach. I hope that today's GOP can watch this and remember what it was like to fight against the fascists, not alongside them.
I'm glad we won the war.
You are the memory.
U.S. Army. Bonjour, madame. So nice. Oh, you look most elegant.
It's for you.
Formidable. I knew I had to come back.
Welcome to France. What happened here in Normandy links us definitively to the United States, to the Americans. I would like to express to you, dear veterans, and to your brothers in arms, our deepest respect and my deepest love.
The greatest honor in France.
Thank you.
C'est un plaisir d'être ici.
On se voit jeudi au Omaha Beach. Je serai avec 2 présidents.
Ah.
le président des États-Unis et le président français, et plus Jill Biden.
Très bien.
Soyez sages d'ici là.
Très bien.
Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.